Something was wrong with my reflection, long before I had the guts to admit it. Not wrong like a bad hair day, wrong, like the mirror kept showing me the outline of a life I wasn't living. I kept trying anyway, hoping this time the pieces would finally click into the shape of a girl. Instead, every attempt looked like a crime scene: mismatched clothes, crooked eyeliner, and a ponytail so sad it should have come with an apology. I'd stare at myself and see nothing but a boy-shaped clown desperately chasing a dream he couldn't reach. Wanting to live as a girl while failing to even look like one felt like swallowing acid in slow motion. 17. Too short, too soft, reddish-brown hair that never behaved, blue eyes that didn't help. My sister was off at college, leaving me alone with my parents and an identity slipping through my fingers. The girl I saw in my head drifted farther from the boy in the mirror until the distance between them felt unbearable. My grades collapsed. My mood followed. Every day became the same brutal cycle: try, fail, regret, repeat. A loop of self-inflicted disappointment I couldn't climb out of. Mom noticed first. She kept asking what was wrong. But how was I supposed to explain that the thing I wanted most, being feminine, in every possible way, lived completely outside her idea of what a boy should be? To her, people like me existed somewhere else. Some abstract them, not her own kid. Dad was even worse in my imagination: stern, fixed, impossible. 3 weeks before the year ended, everything cracked. Mom confronted me with a fury I'd only seen once, back when my sister got pregnant, and demanded answers. I refused. She pushed harder. I refused again. Her glare narrowed, her voice sharpened, and then she spun me around, nose to nose, insisting I speak. The anger in her eyes knocked loose the anger in me. Her slap sealed the moment. The confession came out raw. I want to be a girl. She froze, sank onto the bed, staring like I'd spoken a foreign language. The silence stretched so long it felt physical. When she finally stood, all she said was that we'd talk later and that my attitude had to stop. Then she paused in the doorway, looked back, and tossed out a line that nearly knocked me over. "I'll bet you'd be pretty all fixed up." I collapsed into my chair, humiliated, terrified, certain Dad would explode when he heard. I cried until there was nothing left. Lying on my bed, I pictured every possible punishment. Dad wasn't hateful, but he was rigid, and this was personal. This was his house, his son. I prayed he'd stay quiet. That silence would count as mercy. Before he came home, Mom sat beside me and asked if hiding this had been as painful as it looked. Her hand moved gently across my back, and her voice softened. She guessed I never got it right when I tried, then asked if I wanted to try again with her help. My throat locked, but my heart screamed yes. When I couldn't answer, she decided for me. "We'll see what we can do to make you into a girl." Dinner passed like nothing had happened. Night dragged on with visions of her laughing at me, though morning came with a strange pulse of hope. She stepped into my room and told me that Saturday would be the day. The bigger fear wasn't Saturday itself, it was what waited after. I kept imagining endings, none of them good, and tried to hold on to the thinnest thread of hope. "Mom, I'm Sharon Miller, and yesterday my son handed me a confession that knocked the air out of me." I lay awake half the night replaying his childhood, hunting for some moment I'd missed, some sign. Growing up in the 70s, I'd met people who bent gender lines, but this was my own kid. He'd never once hinted at wanting this, not even on Halloween, so how long had he carried it alone? I wasn't ignorant about queer kids. I went to school with a boy named Benny, who was openly gay, yet hearing my son say he wanted to be a girl filled me with a shame I couldn't explain. Maybe because it wasn't some distant story anymore. It was happening in my house, in my family, in front of me. And then there was David. My husband's world is simple and tight. He's a plumber, old school, hardworking, raised in a place where everyone was the same, and anything different was a threat. He always hoped Chris would follow him into the trade, but our son wanted to write stories, not fix pipes. So telling David felt like planning an ambush. One wrong word, and the whole thing could explode. but Chris was unraveling moody, depressed, close to breaking. If dressing as a girl even once eased that pressure, then I had to help him and somehow get David to understand. Dad, I'm David. And when Sharon told me what Chris wanted, my first instinct was violent. I'm not proud of that, but it's the truth. Sharon stopped me cold with that quiet voice of hers, the one that makes me listen whether I want to or not. She admitted she'd known since that awful night, and that stung worse than anything. We never keep secrets. Her voice cracked only once, while she explained what she wanted to do. Let Chris try dressing up, just once, to see if it helped. Maybe even take him outside if it went well. That scared the hell out of me. The neighbors, the rumors, the sight of my son in a dress, I imagined a disaster. But Sharon said it mattered to him, deeply. And she reminded me that when Jenna got pregnant, I'd raged at first, too. Then I'd softened, even grown protective. She said this wasn't any different, and she wasn't wrong. If I said no, Chris would wait until graduation, leave, and do it alone. Letting him figure it out unprotected scared me more than the idea of him in makeup. So I agreed reluctantly, with a knot in my stomach, and Sharon told me exactly what she needed me to do. Be gone on Saturday. It felt like hiding, but I said yes. Saturday. When Mom finally said the words, "On Saturday morning, we're making you into the girl you dream of being," I could barely choke out a shaky promise. The next 3 days dragged like wet rope. By the time Saturday arrived, I was vibrating with nerves. As soon as Dad left for work, Mom took me into her room and made it clear this would be the real thing. She had me stripped down to my briefs, then rubbed my skin with some cream before sending me into the shower. Minutes later, every bit of body hair was spiraling down the drain. The shave, the clean skin, the towel around my waist, it all felt like stepping into someone else's life. Back in her room, Mom moved fast. Panties first, then rollers winding into my hair. Each click of the curler eased something inside me, and by the time she started dressing me, I wasn't scared anymore, just quiet and willing, trying not to shake. She taught me makeup step by step, foundation first, laid evenly across my face until my skin looked softer than I'd ever seen. Eyeshadow next, green under plum, harder, messier, but she guided me through it. Eyeliner nearly defeated me until I braced my elbow and managed 2 clean strokes. Even the pencil under my eyes made a difference. When I looked in the mirror, the shock was so sharp it almost hurt. I didn't know I could look like that. Then came the clothes. Mom set a bundle on the bed, one of Jenna's outfits from high school. I picked up the strange, stiff garment first. "It's called a waist nipper," she said. I wrapped it around myself and hooked the front, feeling my waist pull inward as my torso lifted. The peach bra came next, lace-trimmed, simple, but with padded cups that pushed what little I had upward until I looked different. Almost believable. "Push these in under yourself, Christian." The pads lifted my chest just enough to fake a curve, and suddenly the bra didn't look like borrowed fabric, it looked like part of me. I sat on the bed to pull on the pantyhose, the nylon gliding over my bare skin in one smooth electric sweep. It made my body react in a way I didn't want Mom to notice, so I turned away, mortified. She didn't comment, just offered a knowing smile. She handed me a skirt next, a short green and white pleated thing that brushed mid-thigh when I zipped it up. The white blouse tucked neatly into it, the soft tan sweater slid over my head, and somehow each layer quieted another piece of panic. Then she placed a pair of black heels in front of me, brand new. "I bought them for you," she said. "They fit perfectly." My first time in heels, and I stood up like I'd been practicing in secret for years. Hair next, makeup next, a new self next. I sat still while she removed the rollers and shaped my hair the way Jenna used to wear hers. Bangs trimmed, curls teased into soft volume. The rest brushed long and loose down my back, with barrettes lifting the sides. She added blush, then a soft red lipstick, then clipped on gold earrings and a delicate necklace. Only then did she step back and let me face the mirror. and the girl staring back was impossible. No trace of the boy remained beneath the peach lingerie, the pantyhose, the pleated skirt, the soft sweater, the black heels. The gold earrings swung near my jawline. The pendant rested between the padded swells of my chest. My hair framed my face in warm waves. The eyeliner sharpened my eyes into something bright and feminine. Everything Jenna once wore suddenly belonged to me. Mom let out a breath. I knew you'd make a pretty girl. I could barely tear myself away from the mirror. I stood 5'7" now, not as a shy boy, but as a girl with reddish hair tumbling past her shoulders, almond-shaped eyes, small but honest curves, a narrow waist tapering into the flare of a short skirt. When I spun, the skirt lifted and showed long legs wrapped in sheer nylon. Relief washed over me like warm water. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was her. The girl I'd been chasing in every failed attempt. She existed in my reflection, in my bones, in every breath. I didn't want to stop staring. I imagined walking through a mall, hearing heels on tile, buying another outfit, ordering a drink, and letting strangers see me. But courage slipped through my fingers, and I settled for floating in the moment. Claire. That was the name I gave her. Claire Elaine Miller. Mom's voice broke through my trance. How about lunch? She took my hand and led me downstairs. We ate sandwiches at the kitchen table, my skirt brushing my thighs each time I shifted, my pulse racing with the simple thrill of being seen, even if only by her. After we washed the dishes, I slipped into the small bathroom and reapplied a bold red lipstick. 2 slow coats. The girl in the mirror glowed. I felt light. Alive. Then I heard the door open behind me. Mom stepped in, eyes soft, asking if I'd chosen a name. I hesitated, embarrassed by how far I'd already gone. She coaxed it out, and when I whispered Claire Elaine, she smiled and repeated it like it belonged. Then she made a suggestion that froze my blood. You've never been out of the house. Why not now? My euphoria shattered. Leave the house? Like this? But she waited, patient, giving me space to choose. My voice wavered, refused to cooperate, and she filled the silence herself. Do you have a purse? Yes, I squeaked. Put your wallet and lipstick inside and come back. I couldn't move. Fear pinned me to the floor. I finally admitted it. I'm scared. Don't be, dear. Get your purse. I'll wait. It wasn't a request. And like always, I obeyed. When I returned, she took my arm gently but firmly. It's time the world saw how pretty you are. I couldn't say no. The war inside me, terror versus longing, made my chest tight. But when she said she'd fix my hair once more, I let her. And when she guided me outside, I didn't resist. My legs trembled the whole walk to the car, but I got in. The drive was silent. Mom didn't say a word until she pulled into the parking lot. Mom parked the car and turned to me. I won't force you, Claire. But we both know you want this. You're just terrified. Am I right? Sweat slid down my spine. My palms shook. My voice cracked. But I whispered yes. She lifted my chin, steady and warm. I'll be with you. If you don't take this step now, you'll regret it forever. My throat tightened, but I croaked out another yes. She stepped out of the car. I followed, legs trembling. No escape left once the locks clicked behind us. I tried to copy her posture as we walked, but she immediately corrected me. Don't hang your head, Claire. People will think you're hiding something. I was hiding everything, but I lifted my chin anyway. Inside, the grocery store was overflowing with people. I grabbed a cart and stuck close to Mom while she filled it aisle by aisle. My nerves felt like exposed wires. 2 girls from school walked past with their mothers. I knew they saw me. But they barely blinked, didn't whisper, didn't point, didn't react. It was surreal. I pushed the cart and waited for the shout, the laugh, the reveal that never came. Only when we reached the car again did I take my first full breath. See? Mom said softly. I told you you'd be fine. I blurted out that I'd seen classmates. She only smiled, a tiny, knowing smile, and drove us home. We put groceries away, while she cheerfully announced she'd bought steaks for dinner. "Set the table for 4," she said. I froze. 4! Jenna, your father, you, and me. I tried to bolt upstairs and change, but she stopped me. "No. Stay as you are. Your father knows." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Dad knows?" "Of course. We talked. He's worried about you, sweetheart. He thinks you're close to breaking." "Dad agreed to this?" I muttered, stunned. "Yes. He doesn't understand it, but he loves you. He wants you safe, not hiding this until you run off alone." She said he imagined I'd look like a man in a dress, the same fear I carried, but that reality would surprise him. As for Jenna, she was being told that afternoon. Whether she understood or not, she'd try. I stood there, caught between two brutal futures. If I said no, I'd live with doubt forever. If I said yes, I'd have to face all of them and myself. Dad knows? Really? Mom took my hand, squeezed gently. "If you can't do this with family, how will you ever do it outside?" My fear of Dad's anger twisted inside me, but Mom's certainty steadied me just enough. I nodded. "Okay, I'll try. Set the table," she said. "Start the salad." Half an hour before everyone arrived, I followed her to her room for last-minute fixes. She refreshed my lipstick, dabbed perfume on my wrists and neck. I inspected every angle of myself again and again, hunting for flaws, terrified and thrilled in equal measure. When we heard the front door open, she told me to wait until she called. That wait felt like forever, my heartbeat rattling in my ears. Then, "Okay, Claire, come down." It felt like walking toward a firing squad. My heels clicked against the hardwood as I descended. Jenna spotted me first, her jaw dropped. Dad stood too, stunned, blinking like someone rewinding the picture in his head to match what he saw. "Damn," Jenna blurted, laughing. "I'll just go back to school." She reached for my hand, still grinning. Dad's eyes swept me top to bottom and back again. I? Your father's in shock," Mom said mildly. "No? Well, yes. I never imagined Chris could be so, well, you know." I sat beside Jenna, knees tight together, every muscle trying to look composed instead of terrified. Silence stretched until Mom cut through it. "Do you want to live as a girl? Or do you just like dressing up?" Her question hit like a jolt. In my dreams, I'd imagined everything, the softness, the life, the love, even motherhood, all the impossible futures that lived quietly in my head. The pull toward everything feminine was constant, bright, dangerous, and I still couldn't answer Mom's question. The truth hid somewhere deep, refusing to surface. "I don't know," I whispered. Her hand landed softly on my arm. Then she said something that made my pulse slam in my ears. "Maybe you should find out. Really live as a young woman. Work, socialize, date all as Claire. Bring her to life." The fantasy surged up instantly, the freedom, the possibility only to collide with the fear of ridicule, stares, laughter. I froze, drowning in both longing and dread. Dad broke the silence. "You know how I feel. I wanted you to follow me into the trades, but I've known for a long time that you don't belong there. Maybe this is your direction. You look different, better than I ever expected. But if we do this, it's all or nothing. No exceptions. If you're Claire everywhere home, work, day or night. Are you willing?" I looked at him, searching for any expression, any sign. He gave me nothing. My heart raced. Saying yes meant stepping into a life I didn't fully understand. Saying no meant staying trapped in one I already hated. "Yes," I said. Quiet but certain. His face didn't move, but I felt his disappointment, like a weight. Dinner, surprisingly, was calm. Dad avoided the subject entirely. Jenna practically bounced with questions she never voiced. We cleaned the kitchen together afterward, then watched television in a strange new peace. That night, I slept in a nightgown for the first time, a soft, warm whisper against my skin. In a single day, I had confessed everything, shown them everything, and cracked something fragile between Dad and me. His love mattered too much. Losing it felt like losing half of myself. And Jenna, sweet, smiling Jenna, could wound just as easily as she hugged. I'd worn her clothes all day. I hoped it hadn't bothered her. Morning came with nerves and purpose. I tried my makeup alone, brushed out my hair, slipped into clean panties, the padded panty brief, and my new push-em-up bra. I added light foam, admiring the small but unmistakably mine shape of my chest. I chose white shorts, a tee, ankle socks, gym shoes, and a soft swipe of lipstick. Mom and Dad were in the kitchen. They stared, neither smiling nor frowning. "You look nice," Dad said, voice rough as gravel. My stomach dropped until he smiled. "I thought a lot about this. Yesterday proved I might have been wrong about many things. I'm not thrilled about you wearing girls' clothes, but we'll try it. See where it goes." I hugged him hard, felt his tears before I realized my own had started again. Jenna arrived later and helped me clean. Afterward, Mom declared we were going clothes shopping again. Jenna insisted on joining. On our way out, Jenna kissed Dad's cheek. Dad glanced at me, unsure, so I shrugged and kissed him too, leaving a second lipstick mark beside hers. His baffled expression nearly made me laugh. Shopping turned into a whirlwind. A dozen panties, bras, a second panty brief, a white waist nipper, dresses, skirts, blouses, a sundress, a suit, 4 pairs of shoes. And then my ears pierced, the quick sting buzzing through me like a tiny rite of passage. We stopped for lunch and went home with bags covering the back seat. Mom sent me upstairs to hang everything up. I'd barely begun when Dad walked in. "I've been thinking," he said, firm but not unkind. "If you want to live as a female, then the day after school ends, you're getting your hair done a permanent. And you're done with boys' clothes. No exceptions, no slacks. Also, you need a job by the end of the month. Any questions?" I mentioned Jenna, knowing she could be difficult. Dad waved it off. "She called you weird." I reminded her she was the only girl in her class who had a baby. She shut up fast. "I'll take her back to school tomorrow and get her straight. If she doesn't like it, she can pay for her own schooling." Satisfied? I nodded. He left. Mom appeared behind me, almost triumphant. "See? I told you he'd come around." "Yeah, but he hates it, Mom. I'm going against everything he believes a man should be. He'll get over that. Give him time, Claire." The next 2 weeks slipped by in a blur. School limped toward its end, while Mom and I chose soft green paint for my room. I painted carefully, coat by coat, while she shortened and stitched the new drapes to match. Mom and I talked about the coming change every single day. I kept insisting I wasn't ready. She kept insisting readiness only comes by doing. When I worried about kids in the neighborhood, she said that was a bridge I'd have to cross myself. The decision was made. I was about to spend the entire summer as a girl. The question of school was the elephant in the room. After a long, tense family discussion, it was decided. I would finish my final year as Chris, but under one condition. The moment graduation was over, my transition to living full-time as Claire would begin. That summer was my proving ground, my trial run in the life I claimed to want. My parents contacted the school, arranging for me to complete some credits independently to ease the social pressure. It was a compromise that tasted like ash, but it was a path forward. The day before school ended, Dad brought home a small vanity. We set it up in my freshly painted room, and once he left, I filled it with my scattered makeup. It felt like building a new identity, drawer by drawer. Then the last day of school arrived. I rushed home, slipped into girls' clothes, did my makeup as best I could, tied my hair back, and presented myself to Mom. "How about getting your hair cut and styled today, Claire? We can surprise your dad." I agreed before I could second-guess it. At the salon, they trimmed my hair into a soft pageboy curled in the back, wavy on top, bangs swept aside. No perm. Mom said I'd learn to style it myself. A professional touched up my makeup, shaped my brows, painted my nails in a delicate red. When I finally saw myself, I floated. Every trace of the boy I'd been was gone. If the stylists suspected anything, none of them showed it. Mom took me home, followed me to my room, watched me carefully hang up my things before leading me to the den. "Let's talk, Claire." She asked why I never told them, why I hid for so long, why I hadn't trusted them. I told her the truth. I hadn't understood myself enough to explain anything. She nodded, thoughtful. "We're going out to dinner tonight," she said. "I want you with us. Maybe you and your father can find a way forward." I hesitated, terrified. "Does Dad know?" "No, but he hasn't seen you out in public either. He'll have to sooner or later. Let's start now." She told me to change. "Wear the new black dress, Claire." In my room, I undressed carefully, mindful of the styled hair I didn't dare disturb. I slipped into the padded panty brief, tightened the waist nipper, and pulled the black sheath dress over my head. It hugged me in every right place, shorter and bolder than anything I'd imagined wearing. The heels, gold earrings, slim gold watch, each piece clicked into place like armor. I touched up lipstick and showed Mom. "Oh my. You look spectacular," she breathed. She spritzed perfume on me and handed me a black handbag. Mom Claire stunned me. I always knew she was pretty, but I didn't expect this. The first time I helped her dress, she didn't say much, but the joy on her face told me everything. She learned makeup fast today, she barely needed guidance. And when we walked into the salon together, she didn't hesitate at all. That alone told me how serious she was. Now she wasn't just beautiful, she was striking and terrified. Everything came back to her father. She adores him, fears disappointing him, and is convinced we'll stop loving her. She's wrong, of course. Love doesn't break this easily. We intend to push her, yes, to see how she handles the world she claims to want. If she truly wants this life, she must face the neighbors, the stares, the challenges. But she hasn't backed down once, not even today. Claire. I waited on the sofa when Dad came home. Mom told him we were going out. He changed quickly while Mom and I put on our finishing touches. Dinner was at a nice restaurant, white tablecloths, soft lighting. I walked in expecting whispers or disgust, but instead I was treated like any other girl my age. Our waiter didn't blink, neither did the hostess. Dad watched me closely all evening. Finally he spoke. "We're not trying to turn you into anything you're not, but living as a girl is the only way you'll figure out what you really want. You look better than I expected. Better than Jenna sometimes." I might have been wrong all this time. My father admitting he might be wrong nearly stopped my heart. Mom picked up the thread. "That's why we bought you those clothes today, Claire. If this is what you want, I'll teach you everything: how to dress, walk, sit, sew. Anything you need to know to live as a young woman." She meant every word. And for the first time, I felt the future shifting, not as a fantasy, but as something real, something I could actually step into. Everything a girl should know to become a lady, Mom finished, and then dinner faded into small talk, leaving the future buzzing under my skin. The next day, Mom and I dove back into the stores, picking up blouses, tops, better makeup, earrings, shorts, even girls' jeans. On the way home, she had me drive, guiding me through turns until we stopped at a small specialty shop. I knew instantly why we were there. Inside, I was fitted for partial breast forms. The process was awkward, intimate, strange, but the moment they adhered to my skin and settled with their warm, perfect weight, something inside me lit up. They looked real. They felt real. They felt mine. Mom paid, smiling like she'd planned this victory. "These can stay on for months, Claire, and they look amazing." I silently agreed. I couldn't imagine taking them off. That night, I scanned my ID into the computer, swapped in a new photo, and printed everything under the name Claire Elaine Miller. Mom promised we'd get a proper license the next morning. I spent all morning buzzing with nerves. I wore a pleated tan skirt, a white blouse, white flats. My makeup was steady, my hair brushed into soft waves with Mom's help. Perfume, lipstick, confidence, all balanced on a knife edge. "It'll be fine, Claire," Mom said, and she was right. The woman at the DMV barely glanced at me before marking the form. Female. Just like that, I had a new license. I was still floating when a voice broke through the hallway noise. "I know you from somewhere. My name is Jessica." I froze. "Claire Miller?" I said. Her eyes widened, recognition blooming fast. Mom stepped in, cool as ice. "Her name is Claire Miller, Jessica." Jessica swallowed her shock and asked if she could come over later. I looked at Mom. She nodded. "Okay, Jessica, see you then." Once we got to the car, I collapsed against the steering wheel. "I'm dead for sure, Mom." "Not necessarily," she soothed. She seemed kind. Jessica was more than kind, she was everything I wasn't. Gorgeous, popular, the kind of girl boys tripped over. I wanted to be like her. I wanted to hate her. I wanted her to understand me. Back home, I spent the whole week fluttering around the kitchen, fixing hair, reapplying lipstick, adding perfume, checking myself in every reflective surface. Mom teased me gently, but I was too anxious to care. Then Jessica arrived. Jessica, seeing Claire, felt like walking into an alternate reality. I've known Chris since grade school, and never once guessed any of this. But Claire standing in that skirt, with that hair and that face, she didn't look like a joke or a guy playing dress-up. She looked stunning. Her parents obviously supported her. She clearly wasn't treating this like a phase. So I asked to come over. I needed to hear her explain it herself before deciding anything. Claire Mom sent us to the patio. Jessica sat across from me, studying me like a portrait, and I felt pinned in place. "Damn, Claire, you look incredible, gorgeous." She grabbed my hand and told me to spill everything. So I did. She listened quietly, then leaned back. "Most kids won't get this, Claire. You know that? Some guys could even get violent if they hit on you and find out later." Fear curled in my throat, thick and familiar. "But looking at you, you've got the appearance down. Now you just have to learn the rest." I blinked, surprised at how open she was. She tilted her head, evaluating me like a project she'd already accepted. "What you need is a coach." "A coach?" "Sure. Someone to teach you how to be a teenage girl. Who better than me?" Jessica was everything I idolized: effortless beauty, green eyes that sparkled, a confident walk, a perfect smile. She was everything I wished I could be, and everything I feared I never would be. "Will you let me help you, Claire?" A tear slipped down my cheek. I nodded, too emotional to speak. Jessica smiled, gently triumphant. "Good. First lesson be seen. We're going to the mall. Game?" My instinct was to run, hide, flee. But I swallowed hard and nodded. "I have to tell Mom. I'll wait right here, Claire." Mom slipped me some money and told me to buy a new wallet and to have fun. Fun! As if I weren't walking straight toward an executioner's axe. Either I'd survive or be destroyed. Either way, I was deeper into this new life than I ever imagined 3 weeks ago. Jessica and I crossed the yard, then headed down the street toward the mall. 4 blocks, 4 long blocks. By the first corner, she was already interrogating me about how I managed to look so nice. All I could say was that this was simply how the pieces came together. "Trust me, Claire. As long as you don't do anything stupid, you'll be fine. You look better than some of my friends." I thought she was being polite, until she mentioned Laura, sweet Laura, kind Laura, chronically clueless Laura. I swallowed my smile and kept in step. We ducked into a shop so I could buy a wallet. I found one on sale, paid, and transferred everything over. Jessica spotted my temporary license, snatched it from my hand, and read it aloud. "It says you're Claire Elaine Miller, female, age 17. I slipped it into the wallet, then into my purse, and she practically vibrated. "This is great. Why?" "Because it's legal ID saying you're a girl, silly. If anyone questions you, who's arguing with the state?" Her words ignited something inside me. She was right. Compared to girls like Laura and a few others, I wasn't doing half bad. And now I could prove who I was. I relaxed, finally smiled at her, and we moved on. We wandered through every shoe store, a fancy lingerie place, then a perfume shop. I sniffed one bottle after another until I found a scent soft enough to love, and almost fainted when I saw the price. Jessica laughed. "It's the price we pay to smell better than the guys, Claire. We'd barely stepped out when we collided with them. The horde." Jessica, I knew Claire was scared. She told me as much earlier. And honestly, I get it. She looks great, but she doesn't believe she looks great yet. She's strong when someone's with her, but the moment she's alone, she folds. That's why I dragged her to the mall. Crowds, friends, chaos. If she could walk through that, she could walk anywhere. Besides, she's my friend. Claire the Horde were a pack of overgrown delinquents, the type proud of having failed grades. Bad facial hair, tight jeans, loud shirts, leather jackets, heavy boots. Their leader, Tank, Troy, towered over everyone and smelled like he showered twice a month. Their collective IQ was probably lower than our cat's. Jessica and I tried to slip past, but an arm shot out, grabbed me, spun me around, and pinned me in place. "Looky here! A new chick, and she's a real looker! Let her go, you ape!" Jessica pounded on his arm, ignored completely. Tank's hand slid to my right breast and squeezed. Some of that breast was me, some silicone, so it didn't hurt much, but the humiliation burned red hot. I stomped his foot. He barely noticed. He outweighed me by 50 pounds. I didn't stand a chance. Jessica kicked him, but another goon hauled her back and clamped a hand over her mouth. Then I saw it a finger tapping Tank's shoulder. A fist followed, flying past my cheek and smashing into his nose with a crunch. Blood erupted. Tank staggered, reached for a knife, and swung toward our rescuer. The guy stepped aside easily. Tank lurched forward and got kicked squarely in the groin. The entire mall heard that groan. He dropped like a felled tree. Security sprinted toward us. The goons released Jessica and ran. Tank got hauled off in an ambulance. I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Fear, embarrassment, adrenaline all tangled together. That's when I learned his name. Noah. Tall, husky, blonde hair cut short, calm brown eyes, and a quiet confidence that radiated off him. Jessica nudged me. I'd been staring. A female officer checked on us, took our statements. I handed over my temporary license and waited, terrified, but she didn't blink. "Thank you for helping us," I told him. "My pleasure. I'm Noah Brooks." Jessica introduced us. Noah kept smiling and he kept looking at me. Really looking. "Girl," Jessica whispered. "He's got eyes for you." "No way." "Yes way. You saw him. He's hooked." Before I could respond, Noah returned. I'd just taken a sip of my drink, trying hard to look feminine, when he asked if he could call me. I almost choked. "I'm new here," he said, "and I don't know anybody except you two, of course." I tried dodging Noah's question about calling me by praising his moves instead. Tank's fall, his timing, the knife. Noah just laughed, explaining it all like basic physics. Leverage and timing. He didn't know how to handle a knife. You never toss it hand to hand, you lose control. He was all mouth. It was nothing, nothing. Meanwhile, I couldn't have survived that, even on my best day. "Let me walk you ladies home," he said. Jessica agreed instantly, obviously delighted, and I had no graceful way to refuse. So we headed back, Jess on one side, me on the other. Her house came first. She peeled off with a wink, leaving me alone with Noah and his warm, confident hand around mine. I tried to tell him I'd be fine on my own, but he ignored that and told me to lead the way. So we walked the last 2 blocks hand in hand. Then I saw Dad's truck in the driveway. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. But I'd agreed to live as a girl. I'd agreed to this whole life. And here I was, fingers tangled with a boy's, walking straight into Dad's line of sight. Dad came out. I introduced him, breathless, shaky. "Daddy, this is Noah Brooks. He saved Jessica and me. Tank attacked us, and Noah, well, flattened him." Dad blinked. Tank? That puke who thinks he's tough? I nodded. He pulled a knife, Dad, but Noah broke his nose and then kicked him and took it away. Dad stared at Noah with something like respect. I owe you, son. Thanks for looking after Claire. Well, sir, may I call on Claire in the future? Of course. Here's my number. Before I could breathe, Noah bowed his head slightly, kissed my hand, shook Dad's hand, and walked down the street like a knight heading back to his castle. The moment he turned the corner, I spun on my father. How could you do that to me? What? He genuinely didn't see it. I stormed inside, skirt flaring, half panicked, half thrilled. Mom found me sulking in my room and immediately started smiling. Nice afternoon, I take it? Dad said Noah could call me. Why shouldn't he? I unloaded everything, Tank grabbing me, the fight, the kiss on the hand. Mom listened, thoughtful, then said the last thing I expected. Sounds like he's attracted to you, Claire? And he's very cute. You two make a sweet couple. Mom! Don't mom me. You had to know this might happen, and maybe it's exactly what you need. I sat while she perched at my vanity. This is what I warned you about. A boy was bound to notice you, and now you'll have to deal with it. He seems kind, Claire. If he asks you out, think before you say no. She was right. I had imagined something like this. I just never admitted how badly I wanted it, even to myself. Noah was everything Dad admired. Tall, strong, handsome, polite, confident. Everything I wasn't. I was short, soft, not built for fighting, nowhere near his league. Yet he'd looked at me. Not through me at me. But how was I supposed to keep him from discovering the truth? How long could I keep that secret? That night we ate on the patio. Dad kept grinning at me, but didn't say a word about Noah. Not one. Dad Christian becoming Claire shakes me more than I can show. I wanted him to join my trade. Instead, I got a daughter, and a very cute one at that. She dove into this without hesitation, and I can't help respecting that. Then Noah appeared. Everything I would want in a boy Jenna dated, and everything I'd hoped Chris might someday be. Seeing them walk hand in hand nearly stopped my heart. But Tank is a monster, and Chris could never have fought him off. Noah protected them both. Maybe Jessica's influence will help Claire more than Jenna ever could. The summer was supposed to be enough time for Claire to figure out who she is, but when school starts again, it'll have to be Chris. For now. Mom Claire's terrified, but she keeps moving forward. First, she admitted her secret. Then she embraced it. The hair, the nails, the bedroom, the clothes. Now, Noah. She doesn't want to be a person in a dress. She wants to be real, a real girl. But she's terrified of discovery, and she hides that fear with a smile. Her father doesn't see it, but I do. Dad kept insisting the walk with Noah had been circumstance, not romance, but the way he looked at us, her hand in his, like it was the most natural thing in the world, shook him. Claire was becoming more feminine by the day, and it scared him in ways he didn't know how to admit. I worried too. Not because Claire looked wrong, but because she looked right. Claire. Over the next few days, I threw myself into transforming my room. New layout, new colors, new softness everywhere. Mom let me choose from old artwork she'd packed away, watercolor bears dancing through the woods. Too cute, too girly, too perfect. By the next morning, we had a matching bedspread with frilly pillows piled high. I didn't even fight it. I chose all of it myself. Every detail. I dressed however I felt each day, jeans, shorts, sometimes makeup, sometimes none. Mom never corrected me, never pushed. Jessica came over to help decorate, laugh about Noah, update me on her boyfriend Greg, and show me how to be casual cute. We goofed off, browsed online, and talked about trans girls who'd made the leap long before I had. Jessica was amazed at how many looked stunning, gorgeous hair, soft curves, faces that could walk through a mall unnoticed. Some were less convincing, sure, but most carried themselves with a confidence I envied. After she left, I kept searching sites alone, And then I found it. A full panty. A realistic, skin-matched, seamless panty built for girls like me. It hid everything and created the illusion every real girl took for granted. I clicked through the photos twice. Then I bookmarked the page. Mom walked in just as the last image loaded. "Oh my God, that looks real!" "It's a full panty, Mom. There's a special sheath. I'd sit like you and Jenna. Always." I showed her the photos again. She read the ordering instructions slowly, jaw tightening. "If we let you buy this, Claire, we'll need to have a serious talk about boys and girls." "Mom, that's what your sister said, and she ended up pregnant." "Mom, please. I cannot get pregnant." "That's true, but sex is still possible, and that makes you just as vulnerable." I pushed back hard. "I'm not Jenna. I'm me." That stopped her. She sighed, nodded, reconsidered. "You're right. I'm sorry. This isn't expensive, but we do need to tell your father." "Do we have to tell him I could have sex?" "He'll explode." "No, we don't mention that part. Show me the site again." We looked at it together, girls wearing the panty confidently, convincingly, beautifully. That would complete the picture, wouldn't it? I printed everything. She took the papers. We made dinner in near silence. That night, Mom showed Dad the pictures. She argued I needed it for protection, for confidence, for safety. He resisted, of course he did, but finally gave in. He hated it, but he allowed it. The next morning we went shopping not for clothes, but for the exact skin tone of my groin. We needed perfect accuracy. At the art supply store, we compared swatches under bright lights until we matched it exactly. Mom didn't speak on the way home. She didn't need to. In my room, she had me strip so she could apply the gel mold to my lower body. It took an hour to set. When she peeled it off, it held a perfect imprint of me. She wrote down measurements: waist, hips, then suggested an ideal figure. "Jenna wears a 36, she said. "We'll make you a 34, 25, 35. It felt unreal. It felt right. We packed everything. Mom sealed the box and sent it off. That evening, my heart nearly stopped when Dad handed me the phone. "Claire?" "It's Noah. He wanted to take me to a show Friday night." I said yes. He'd pick me up at 7, 3 days. 3 days to convince Dad I was mature enough to date a boy. I hid the whole thing from him for now. The next afternoon, the doorbell rang. A delivery truck, my box, my panty. I signed, ran to my room, and tore it open. Mom joined me. We read the instructions twice. Applying it was awkward, slow, messy, but once the adhesive dried and the waistline sealed, the illusion was perfect. The color blended seamlessly with my skin. Even up close, it was impossible to tell where I ended, and the silicone began. Mom smiled. "I think we can convince your father now, Claire, if you feel like doing a little shopping." I dressed fast, and for the first time felt completely, impossibly whole. I pulled on my shorts and froze. They fit me exactly the way they should fit any girl's smooth front, soft curve, a clean wedge tapering between my legs. My new breasts gave a tiny bounce when I walked. Between the breast forms and the panty, every trace of boy had been erased. Mom caught my grin and just jerked her thumb toward the car. She bought me a powder blue baby doll set next year as air, delicate as a dream. If I wore the panty under it, my groin would be perfectly hidden, which is exactly why I knew I never planned to wear it with the baby doll. I was getting sneaky just like Mom. The minute we got home, I called Jessica and walked straight to her house. Her mom didn't even blink when Jess introduced me as Claire. Upstairs, behind her closed bedroom door, I told Jessica I had something to show her. I unbuttoned my blouse, slid it off, unhooked my bra, letting my breasts settle freely, then pushed down my shorts and peeled off my panties. Jessica gasped, eyes huge. I dressed again while she stared, speechless. "That's a really cool trick, Claire. How'd you do it?" "Nope. Secret, you, me, and Mom, nobody else." She agreed instantly. Then I told her Noah had asked me out. Her shoulders relaxed, her grin widened, And just like that, we knew the summer was about to get interesting. Jessica. When Claire showed me her assets, I nearly fell over. I was standing a foot away and couldn't tell what was real or not. She looked just like a girl, a very cute girl. And the way she moved, smiled, talked, there was no hesitation anymore. She was serious. This wasn't a phase. We spent the afternoon talking about the future, what she wanted, who she wanted to be. She didn't know yet, but she was certain of one thing. She didn't want to give up Claire. And honestly, I didn't want her to either. Claire, after dinner that night, Mom gave me a wink. I went upstairs, slipped into the baby doll and matching robe, kept the sash loose, and slid into Jenna's old bunny slippers. Walking downstairs felt like stepping on stage. Dad looked up and his eyes went wide. The sheer fabric outlined my breasts plainly. The smooth, feminine taper of my groin left nothing to interpretation. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Mom stepped in before he combusted. We made a few adjustments, she told him, to help Claire fit in, to make her comfortable in public. He'd known about the panty, but seeing it, really seeing it, was different. And he definitely hadn't known about the breast forms. The shock on his face said everything. I decided to drop my own bomb. Noah's taking me to the show tomorrow. Dad blinked, shrugged, said nothing. I think he just gave up trying to understand. Or he was still too stunned to speak. The next day, I started getting ready at 4. Bubble bath, shaved arms, legs, face everything smooth again. I just wrapped myself in a towel when Mom walked in carrying what looked like a bundle of straps. Before you dress, wear this tonight. What is it? A sanitary belt. It holds your pad. Mom, I don't need a sanitary belt. Yes, dear. But this is part of being female. You'll wear one 5 days a month, like the rest of us. Might as well get used to it. She clipped everything into place so I couldn't escape a huge pad strapped between my legs. I felt ridiculous. Boxy, lumpy. Now you can get dressed. Great. A date, and she'd turned me back into a wobbly beginner for the night. I did my makeup, set rollers, put on my bra, and chose my outfit. Gray short-sleeved blouse, red pleated skirt, short enough to show off my legs, pantyhose, the works. As I waited for the curling iron to heat, it hit me. Mom wasn't teaching me about womanhood. She was installing a chastity system. Most boys won't go near a girl wearing a pad. She was protecting me or sabotaging me, depending on how you saw it. When Noah picked me up, not one person recognized me. Not one. Even 2 girls I knew well didn't bat an eye. After the show, I expected him to stop somewhere, maybe try something. Instead, he drove me home politely, then kissed me, soft at first, then deeper. I let his tongue into my mouth. Heat poured through me. My pulse jumped when his hand slid onto my leg. Now I understood the pad. Very clearly. I broke away, breathless, thanked him, and fled into the house. Later, in bed, I slid my hand into my panty, pushed the pad aside, and touched myself. The realization hit hard, undeniable. I never wanted to be a boy again. Every cell in my body screamed girl, loud and clear. And the scary part? I loved every bit of it, even the stupid sanitary pad. Mom wanted the full report, and I barely got fine out before she hit me with the real question: how I felt when he kissed me. The truth slipped out before I could cage it. He made everything inside me spark. She didn't comment, just sent me off to the shop with a note that Dad wanted to see me. Great. From tingles to terror in under a minute. Dad was buried behind towers of paper when I walked in, looking like a man one invoice away from losing his mind. He didn't bother with a greeting. No more drifting around, Claire. You need a job, and I need someone who won't lose my bills under a sink trap. Wear something professional, no jeans. I slid into the chair he vacated, surrounded by the chaos he called a filing system. 3 hours later, I'd conquered only the desk. By the time I dug through the rest, unearthed a prehistoric computer, and discovered thousands owed to him, I'd forgotten I was in a skirt at all. When I told him what he was missing in unpaid bills, he brightened until I explained his machine belonged in a museum. He grumbled, handed over his credit card, and pretended it was his idea. The next week, I lived in that office. 12-hour days, dust in my hair, nylon snagged from crawling on the floor. His rule about no jeans died fast, but the place slowly came alive clean, organized, almost civilized. Dad stopped in every so often, pretending to check my progress while really checking me, eyes flicking over my outfit, my posture, the way I answered the phone. He still hadn't figured out how he felt, so he settled on silence. Noah finally called after 2 days, and even though Mom answered, he tracked me down at the shop. He wanted Saturday night. I said yes before my brain caught up. The second date was worse. Better than the first. He pulled over down the street, kissed me, and my whole body dissolved. When his hand drifted up my leg, a warning shot slammed through me. I stopped him before either of us could pretend I wasn't tempted. He didn't push. That almost made it worse. Jessica dropped by the office and closed the door behind us, the unofficial signal for girl talk. She understood the thrill, the fear, the impossible math of being Claire in the summer and Chris in the fall. I told her the truth. School wasn't safe for a girl like me. Dressing at work was one thing. Walking into homeroom in heels was a suicide pact. She didn't argue. She couldn't. Mom wasn't any help either. She said this was something I had to untangle alone. Maybe she was right. Maybe that's why the truth burned so much. Sooner or later, Claire would have to disappear. By the time a month passed, the office was reborn. My system worked, bills went out, and Dad was no longer on the IRS most wanted list. His shop was still a disaster zone metal, pipes, fixtures stacked like modern art, so I suggested we finally face it. Dad hated the idea, which meant we were absolutely doing it. He even hired Noah to handle the heavy sorting, leaving me to catalog everything. Working with Noah was torture. When he wasn't there, I could breathe, move naturally, forget how my skirt sat or how my voice sounded. When he was, every gesture felt too big or too small. And when he pulled his shirt off in the heat, my brain short-circuited. I hid in the office more than I liked. Dad, meanwhile, was adjusting in his own way. He'd originally imagined I'd be at his side with a wrench someday. Now he had a daughter in his office, wearing skirts and organizing his business. I think that's when he decided it was time to stop indulging a hobby and start putting me to work for real. Dad kept thinking all I'd do was shuffle papers, but once I started, the office turned into my battlefield. File by file, receipt by receipt, I pulled his business out of the Stone Age. Even he saw it. When he realized I'd found money people still owed him, he joked that maybe I belonged in the company after all. The part he didn't joke about was Noah. He'd never seen Chris look twice at another boy, and now he'd watched Claire melt into Noah's arms like it was the most natural thing in the world. It shook him more than he let on. Mom had to spell it out for him. "We don't have a son anymore." That hit him like a hammer, especially after seeing me that night in that barely there sleepwear. The illusion wasn't an illusion anymore. I looked like his wife's daughter. He tried to hide how much Noah bothered him, but I could tell. When he caught me watching Noah work shirtless, his whole face clenched like he'd bitten a lemon. He didn't say a word. Maybe he didn't trust his voice. Noah kept helping around the shop, hauling out old pipe scraps and fixtures until the place finally looked like a workshop instead of a scrapyard. Dad pitched in, and I stayed beside them with a clipboard, cataloging everything they dragged out. When they finished sorting, Dad took Noah on a job, leaving me to start turning the chaos into a usable inventory. It took 3 days, my brain turning to mush in the process, but the shop was finally tamed. The office needed paint, too, and I suggested Noah handle it. Dad agreed before he remembered he was supposed to be suspicious of him. Noah and I kept seeing each other movies, walks, nothing fancy. And then, one Saturday, instead of turning toward my street, he steered us into the park. The air between us had been tightening for days, and when he pulled me close, I felt it snap. One moment we were talking, the next, we crossed a line I hadn't thought I'd ever cross. It wasn't planned, it wasn't careful, it just happened too fast, too intense, too overwhelming. When it was over, we sat side by side, breathless and shaken, staring at the grass like it was supposed to give us answers. Walking home, I felt hollow and buzzing at the same time. By the time I reached my room, I was shaking. I undressed, stepped into the bath, and tried to scrub away the panic, but nothing washed off. Not the guilt, not the shock, not the part of me that had wanted it. For 2 days, I carried it alone, the weight of it grinding into my ribs. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think. When Mom found me crying at the shop, one look was enough. She shut the door, sat beside me, and let me collapse into her arms. I told her everything, every fear, every mistake, every part of me that felt ruined. She listened quietly, rubbing circles on my back. When I finally fell silent, she said softly, "You're not the first girl to get swept up in something she wasn't ready for. And you won't be the last." She made me breathe, made me look at her. Then she said the thing I needed most and hated hearing. "You made a choice you regret." "That doesn't make you broken." I asked if she hated me. She said she was worried but not disappointed. Later, Noah came to the house. Dad let him in, stiff as a board, and Mom herded Dad onto the patio for a talk that sounded more like a strategic briefing mixed with a thunderstorm. I heard fragments, Mom insisting I'd changed, Dad growling about responsibility, Mom reminding him he'd raised a daughter who finally felt alive. Inside, Noah and I stood facing each other like two people on opposite shores. He couldn't look away. I couldn't breathe. "I wanted to tell you," I whispered, "but I was scared you'd walk away, or, worse, that I'd fall for you and never know if you loved me back." He didn't speak, just stepped closer, his expression conflicted, raw, scared, determined. I looked up at him. He reached for me, and despite everything, I stepped into his arms. Noah let out a shaky laugh. "I'd hate to be in your dad's shoes right now." That broke something loose in me, and I actually smiled. For the first time in hours, the situation felt survivable. "Claire, can we rewind a bit? Start over? Do this right?" I tried to answer, tried to ask what he meant, but he pulled me into a kiss before I could get a single word out. His arms locked around me, warm and certain, as if he'd already decided the future for both of us. Dad and Mom walked back in just in time to see it. Dad looked like he'd bitten into a lemon. Mom like she'd been expecting it all along. We separated fast, like two kids caught near a cookie jar, but the look on Dad's face said the damage was done. I hid in the kitchen with Mom and cooked, just for something to do with my hands. Later, Noah and I ended up on the patio, the night warm around us. "You said you're going to become a real woman someday," he murmured. "How long does that take? 2 years? Maybe a little less." "That's a long time to wait," he whispered. "It'll be worth it," I told him, and for once, I believed it. He pulled me close again, his hands sliding up my back, his breath warm on my ear. His feelings weren't a secret anymore. He loved me. He said the words out loud, almost afraid of them. I trembled, because I wanted to say it back. But instead of letting the moment slide into something dangerous again, I pressed a hand to his chest and whispered, "Not here, not now." He understood, not happily, but he did. We sat together for 2 more hours, leaning into each other, talking about everything and nothing, until he finally left. I went upstairs, washed my face, crawled into bed, and stared at the ceiling. In the morning, Dad was already at work, so Mom and I had coffee alone. She didn't scold. She didn't pry. She simply said, "Your father knows he handled a lot of this badly, and he wants to fix it. I think it's time we get you into a program." 2 hours later, I was sitting in a doctor's office, getting my first hormone shot. He warned me it might take forever to see results, but patience was now part of the deal. I went straight to the shop afterward, letting the routine calm me. Noah stopped by more often. We didn't cross any more dangerous lines. Mom's warning look was enough, but our relationship deepened in quieter ways. Late-night phone calls, hands brushing in the shop, long hugs that told me he wasn't going anywhere. By autumn, my body had changed enough that I didn't need the breast forms. Jessica nearly exploded with happiness when I told her. She hugged me so hard, I squeaked. My final school year as Chris was a strange dual-life purgatory. I went through the motions, a ghost in boys' clothes, counting the days until graduation. My real life happened after the last bell, at the shop as Claire. The compromise held, but it chafed more with each passing month. It solidified my resolve. This was my path. We were a few weeks from Christmas break when the horde reappeared. Tank found me in the parking lot after class, blocking my path with that dead-eyed stare of his. "I know where you work, girl. Watch yourself." My knees actually shook. I bolted straight to the car and drove to the shop, called Dad, voice trembling. He promised to be there every evening before closing. 2 days later, Tank tested that promise. I was heading out when he grabbed my arm. His fingers barely closed before Dad ripped him away like he weighed nothing. Tank swung. Dad dodged and knocked him flat. When Tank got up again, Noah stepped in beside Dad without a word. Tank swung again badly. Dad's fist met his chin. The sound echoed like a hammer hitting stone. Tank crumpled. The cops arrived minutes later. They'd dealt with him before, and since he was over 18 and I was his target, Dad was fully justified. They hauled Tank off without a shred of sympathy. I fell into Dad's arms, shaking. He squeezed me so hard my ribs ached. For the first time in months, he didn't pull away. Graduation came and went in a blur of relief. The day after, Claire emerged for good. Noah and I went to prom later that year. We danced until our feet hurt. We kept working at the shop. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, my life reshaped itself around the truth I had finally stopped running from. 2 years and 4 months later, the surgery was done. 6 months after that, Noah passed his plumber's test. We celebrated alone, quietly, the way 2 adults do when the world has finally stopped trying to tear them apart. Mom said I had turned into the daughter she never knew she would have, steady, bright, stubborn, gentle. She missed Jenna, who disappeared with her boyfriend long ago, but she said watching me bloom felt like getting a second chance at raising a girl. Dad eventually admitted something I never thought I'd hear, that I was always his daughter. He'd just been too scared to see it. Jessica became my best friend, the kind who sits with you through every doubt, every meltdown, every victory. When I asked her to be my maid of honor, she cried before I did. And Noah, he proposed. I said yes. Next June, I marry the boy who saw Claire before I did. This journey started with one terrified whisper: I want to be a girl. It ends with me standing firmly in my own life, my own skin, my own future.